Previously on the Rod Pedersen Show.
Hard Knocks debuted the 2021 season last night on HBO. I watched it, featuring America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. And it's funny, this morning, USA Today had a headline, 5 takeaways from Hard Knocks. I started reading it. I'm like, what am I reading this for? I don't need your 5 takeaways. I got a couple. Number one, I was not the biggest Dak Prescott fan. I think people that watch this show know that. I'm less of a Dak Prescott fan coming out of watching this show. What a whiner. What a whiner. Look, I understand you want to take every rep. I get it. You can't take every single rep. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
He was very upset
that he couldn't.
That he was pulled early in this training camp a couple weeks ago because they want to give the backups some work. Danny Bonaducci, the backup quarterback. Well, Ben DiNucci is his name, but I call him Danny Bonaducci, which means nothing to you, do you? He was the star of the Partridge Family. Anyways, that was one. Dak, come on, stop whining. Let these other guys have some work. And then, of course, he ends up getting hurt. 2, the biggest one was Jera. When he was talking to the team, I thought it was the head therapist. You said it was the team doctor.
Yeah, it was one of the two.
Yeah. So he's writing with an HB pencil these notes on Dak, talking with the medical staff on the phone. And we all take away different things. But my thing was this. He's eating a McDonald's Egg McMuffin, Jera Jones. And people are saying, well, what's odd about that? He's worth $7-8 billion. How does he not have a Red Seal chef at his ready? You know, here you go, Mr. Jones. You know, with his choice, an omelet station.
Yeah, exactly. He's got Benedict or something like.
Right. An omelet station, a guy cutting a roast at the end of the table. Jerry, when you're done with the trainer, we have your choice here of ham, roast beef. Do you want that in your omelet, Mr. Jones?
Get ready for the Rod Pedersen Show. Right now.
Yeah, Rod's not here, so I'm hosting the show.
How about that?
Hey, welcome in. RP Show on the air for this Wednesday. Yes, Darren DuPont here. No Rod Pedersen. He is, I believe, in the air as we speak. Maybe not. Maybe he'll pop into the YouTube chat. We'll see. But good morning, good afternoon, wherever you might be. If you're out in Eastern Canada or Eastern the United States, it's morning, it's afternoon, it's morning everywhere else. I haven't had enough coffee today. But man, is it a beautiful day. I don't know what it's like back in the homeland, the rectangle. Clark, what is it like there? It's 28 degrees. It was 23 when I woke up at 7 a.m. It's 28 degrees already this afternoon. Gloomy and not that hot. Perfect. Then sports talk is where you want to be. Good morning, BW. Good morning to the snowman. Everybody jumping in already. Text line is already starting to fill up. Ron's in there, Steven. Some texts already this morning, so we'll get into those. We'll get into a lot more. Text line is open, 902-518-3033. The website, rodpedersen.com, can find the latest. It's going to be a good show today. There's a great story coming out of Edmonton and the Edmonton Elks. Clark alerted me to this. Then I went over to 3downnation.com, checked it out. The CFL supplemental draft, and they announced their picks on Tuesday. A great story out of Edmonton, which relates to Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide on their draft picks. So we'll get to that. Dave Campbell, Elks analyst on 630 CHED, is going to be alongside. And, of course, he's in Edmonton. We'll talk about the Oilers. The Oilers and Dallas Stars getting set to open their series tomorrow night. Because after an off night in the Stanley Cup playoffs, they're back on the ice tonight. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final will go in Madison Square Garden. It will be the New York Rangers, the Florida Panthers. That's going to be fun. Full preview ahead. Been looking into that. And Devin Heroux coming up in hour 2, because we are 65 days away from the 2024 Summer Olympic Games in Paris. So that's exciting. 65 days to the Olympics. Devin Heroux will be there for CBC Sports. he's going to be all over it. Look, it was an off night in the playoffs last night. So you'll never guess what I did last night. I watched basketball. I watched the NBA playoffs. Game 1, yeah, the Eastern Conference Final, and I was like dialed into it, like so much so. And look, Leanne's gone for 2 weeks because she's working the golf tournament in Hamilton. The RBC Canadian Open's coming up next week. I think I'm actually going to make some plans to be there and maybe do some hits from the golf course, which will be awesome. But I'm all alone, so poured a cocktail. I'm watching the game. I put on basketball of all things. It was great, but I was getting a little lonely. Clark, I get it. Things that happened this week. I'm so, what's the word? The opposite of diligent. And it's not delinquent. But anyways, I'm so not great at just negligent. That's the word, Clark. Thank you. I'm so negligent. Like I get really excited and into things, and then I get into something else. That's the ADHD, right? So it's hard. Like if I'm into it, it's hard for me to like stay in, day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out. So I'm negligent with my TikTok account. You'll see me go on spurts of posting, and then I'll go. I won't do anything. So it's taken some time. But I passed the 1,000 follower count, okay? We're not splitting atoms here, but I went live. Is that still a thing? You need 1,000 followers to go live?
Approved. Bingo.
So I'm hanging out with like 400 or 500 people on TikTok last night watching the basketball game, having a cocktail. It's actually pretty fun. So I know, Clark, you do that for some of the Leaf games, and it's pretty good. I've kind of bought in. So maybe do that again tonight as we watch the Stanley Cup Finals because I'm lonely at home all by myself. But anyways. So that was last night. I watched the game, and if I can provide some basketball analysis, that shot from Jaylen Brown at the end of regulation, for those of you who didn't see it, it's mind-blowing how the Pacers let this game slip away. It ended up being, I think, 132-128 in overtime. The Celtics survived and won. They were the better team for most of this game, but the Pacers are resilient, and they were up by 3. With, in the last minute of the game, and actually it was more like 12 seconds left, and they had the ball inbounding it, and they made a poor inbound, turned it over, and the Celtics got the ball back, and Jaylen Brown made this incredible half-pump, fadeaway, awkward 3 to send the game to overtime. It was like an all-timer, and it's not really getting talked about today or even last night because everybody's talking about Pascal Siakam and the Pacers with the turnover late blowing it. And LeBron James is on social media saying, that's why I foul up by 3 late in the game. I would have fouled if I was the Pacers, but they lose. Boston wins. Should be a fun series. Western Conference Final, Dallas, Minnesota opens tonight. And outside of the sports update, that's all the basketball we're going to talk. Other random sporting notes that came up, Manchester City over the weekend won their 4th in a row. Yeah, soccer. That came on my radar. But two things this one, though, two things that are not sports related that I think are just incredibly exciting. We got lots of time to get into the playoffs and want to jump in with all your comments as well. Appreciate you guys tuning in this morning. I thought this was really cool because if those of you who know me and know me really well, I have a wild fascination with space. To the point where like space movies, things like that. When we had a staff outing back and when we were in the Rectangle in Regina, what was the movie? Interstellar. We saw Interstellar at the Landmark Cinemas. We all went to the movie Interstellar, and that was the second time I had seen it. So love space, your mind wanders. But how about this? Ed Dwight is NASA's first black astronaut candidate way back in the 60s, and he never got to make a trip into space. And finally, he had his dreams come true. At 90 years old, he became the oldest person to travel to space, surpassing the record set by trivia. You guys know this in the studio? It just happened. William Shatner, 2021, was the oldest to go to space. Remember that? William Shatner. So this Ed Dwight became the oldest now at 90 years old. He and 5 others left the atmosphere on a Blue Origin flight on Sunday and touched back down safely in a West Texas desert. They say it's another step forward for the burgeoning space tourism industry. Virgin Galactic has its own 6-person commercial flight scheduled for June 8th. Commercial flight to space. I think I'd probably want to take one. And one day, if I have the money and if the prices come down, I think that's on the bucket list, is I'd like to go to space. I think it'd be scary as all hell, but I think I'd like to go to space. Okay, enough. What does Rod say? Mickey Mouse. And let's hit the quick 6 show horn, please. Text lines open, 902-518-3033. We'll get to our poll question coming up here in a minute. Devin Heroux on the way next hour. Dave Campbell later this hour. And we'll talk a little CFL. Before we jump into the quick 6, good morning, Snowman. Wayne in Victoria. Good morning. Good morning to the folks in Atlanta. And Ryan O'Radio's watching. Randy from the Peg says, picked Ottinger in the poll. Well, you're jumping me a little bit here. He faced the hardest 2 teams not in the Final 8 and had a Game 7 win. Okay. NBA playoffs weren't the only hoops on TV last night. CEBL started off. How about that from Patrolman Pete? And the Winnipeg Sea Bears are in action tonight. We're following the CEBL. We'll get to that coming up a little bit later on. Somebody says Oilers in 4 over Dallas. You guys are into it this morning. You are definitely into it. And the text line we will fire up as well. Stephen in North Dakota, you got your text lined in. Want to say to one of the Rod Squad, Steve Smith, happy birthday in the text line. Got to wish him a happy birthday. So happy birthday, Steve. Make sure you sign up to receive our text, 902-518-3033. Okay, the big story. Game 1 tonight as the Stanley Cup playoffs are back on the ice in New York, Madison Square Garden, will be the New York Rangers and the Florida Panthers in Game 1. The Panthers, they got here knocking off the Tampa Bay Lightning. Then they outlasted the Boston Bruins to reach the conference finals for a second straight year, looking to get back to the Stanley Cup final. The New York Rangers, looking for their first Stanley Cup in 20 years. They knocked off the Washington Capitals and then the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, the Capitals series, pretty cut and dry, pretty easy. I mean, at least it appeared that way comparative to other series. But the Carolina Hurricanes, not so much. They jumped out, the Rangers did, to a 3-0 series lead. But Carolina turned that series around. They forced Game 5, then they forced Game 6, then they forced Game 7. And in Game 7, the Hurricanes in the third period led the New York Rangers 3-1. Sorry, that was in Game 6, not Game 7. But we thought this was going to go 7, and the Hurricanes would have all the momentum. And then Chris Kreider put an end to that, scored 3 goals in the third period, had a hat trick, and away they go. The Rangers, in the regular season, 114 points, first in the Metropolitan, and again, 6-game series with the Hurricanes. Florida, just 4 points back in that race for the President's Trophy, 110 points. They finished first in the Atlantic. Both of their semifinal series, conference semifinals, were done in 6 games. So the series opens tonight in New York. Puck drop set for just after 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. Game 2 will go Friday in New York, and then the series will shift to Florida for games 3 and 4 on Sunday and Tuesday. And then it will go back and forth Thursday, Saturday, Monday, every second day. No 2 days off now in this round of the playoffs. And that's what's great. There's going to be a hockey game every single night until one of these series comes to an end. And if they both go 7, we will not have an off night. So been reading up on some of the previews, seeing what's going on. And the Daily Faceoff had some interesting stats and how eerie this was. Both teams have won the President's Trophy last couple of years. Both teams opened the playoffs going 7-0. Both teams, were spurred by a natural hat trick in the third period of a Game 6. So there's, Mark Messier against the New Jersey Devils in the guaranteed game 30 years ago. Chris Kreider against the Hurricanes, helping them get back from being down 3-1. You have the Rangers, who have played, let's say, not a physical 2 series against the Caps and then against Carolina. the Hurricanes, not exactly a big physical team. And now they meet the Panthers, who are maybe the most physical team in the playoffs. I'm not sure. Alexander Barkov's been outstanding. Chris Kreider has been good. Vincent Trocheck and Mika Zibanejad both lead the Rangers with 14 points each. Matthew Tkachuk has been his usual good self. Sam Reinhart, Anton Liddell each have 9 points. Carter Verhaeghe has been very good. So I'm interested to see what you guys think, where this series is going to go. Who is going to win game one? Who is going to win this series? We're going to talk a lot about some of those betting odds coming up a little bit later on in the program too, because that's interesting. DraftKings has the odds out already, obviously for this series, but they have Stanley Cup final odds out, and they've already done the math for a New York Edmonton series, for a Florida Dallas series, for a Florida Edmonton series, for a New York Dallas series. So we'll look at those two as well. Randy from the Peg on the YouTube chat, as we revisit the comments, would love to see the shows live from the RBC Open. Well, you might see a little walk and talk like we did last year at the Grey Cup in Hamilton. That might be fun. Patrolman Pete says, why go to space when you can visit Winnipeg? Boom. Anyways,
How about
Winnipeg.
that?
Yeah, just like going to space. I think, space, I don't know. It's on my bucket list. Maybe it's not on everybody's bucket list. I'm not sure. Okay. Big fan says the Rangers in 4, and then says the Flyers could have interest in Jack Campbell in a trade with the Edmonton Oilers involving Sean Walker. And that's coming from David Pinota from the fourth period. Okay. I don't know if I'm here for the trade rumors just yet, although in our morning meetings, we were talking more about Mitch Marner and trade talk. That's interesting. Lineup note, though, going into tonight for the New York Rangers, forward Philip Cheadle has been practicing in full, and he's indicated to reporters he's set to come back into the lineup. The Rangers open the Eastern Conference Final tonight. Cheadle, the 24-year-old, has been out with an upper body injury since November 2nd. But he came back for Game 3 of their second-round series with the Hurricanes, but then didn't play in Games 4, 5, and 6. Missed Game 4 with an illness, Game 5 and 6 with effects of that illness combined with some soreness, according to head coach Peter Laviolette. So we'll see if that has any effect on the game. Philip Cheadle in the lineup potentially here tonight. We got leftovers from the Ryan McDonagh trade. Barry Trotz met with the media yesterday, and of course, Mitch Marner's name came up in that one. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Conn Smythe betting stats as well. The Jays are in action. So we'll come back with a sports update. And then we'll get to this great CFL story coming out of Edmonton. And Dave Campbell's joining us coming up a little bit later on this hour. We're just getting into it. Text lines open at 902-518-3033. Show's getting going. I appreciate you all for watching. And we'll be right back after this timeout. This is episode hour 1 of the podcast. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you're streaming on YouTube Live, or you're watching, as always, across our partners at the Game Plus TV network.
The live sports experience is changing. Teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. IKS Live has the right team to deliver. We provide service across North America and produce the best fan experience, in the seats or streaming to you.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. EDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
Hey, honey, can you get one of the kids to show me how this Twitter thing works? Honey, I need to get on Instagram. Time for more of the Rod Pedersen Show.
Welcome back to the show. As we roll through hour one here of the RP Show, trying to get my notes in order. Lots cooking today. Dave Campbell coming up in the next segment. But first, a sports update. After an off night in the NHL playoffs, hockey resumes tonight. Game one of the Eastern Conference Final. The New York Rangers, who took down both the Washington Capitals and the Boston Bruins, meet the Florida Panthers as they knocked off the Lightning and the Bruins. Sorry, the Capitals and the Hurricanes. I think I said Boston that the Rangers got by. Game one of the Western Conference Final will go on Thursday. Don't worry, now a game every night, as we said. The PWHL final is tied at a game apiece after Minnesota shut out Boston 3-0 in Game 2 on Tuesday. Sophie Jacques had a pair of goals, her first two of the playoffs in the win, and Nicole Hensley stopped 20 shots for the shutout. Game 3, Friday now, as the series will shift to Minnesota. Chris Bassett takes the mound tonight for the Blue Jays. They wrap up series with the Chicago White Sox. After taking the opener 9-3 Monday, the Jays' bats went cold in a 5-0 loss Tuesday night. They'll try and win the series tonight. Denis Shapovalov on the court in Geneva, Switzerland today in the final tune-up to the French Open, which begins on Sunday. The round of 16 match will have Shapo taking on 6th seed Tyon Griekspoor. First time these two will ever play each other. CEBL set a record for attendance in their season kickoff on Tuesday night. 12,327 were in Calgary to watch the Edmonton Stingers beat the Calgary Surge at the Scotiabank Saddle Dome. Tonight, season continues. The Saskatchewan Rattlers are home to the Winnipeg Sea Bears. CEBL action, and their season's rolling now, and there's a game basically every night, at least this week. So that's really exciting stuff. Off day at the World Hockey Championships in Prague. The quarterfinals go Thursday. Canada plays Slovakia. Switzerland will meet Germany. Sweden, who's been really great, 7 straight wins, they'll play Finland. And the USA has Czechia. Interesting note from Stephen Ellis at the Daily Faceoff. He wonders what's up with Connor Bedard. And I don't know, Clark, if you've heard this or know this. Connor Bedard, he played just 8 minutes on Tuesday, nothing in overtime, just 10 shifts in the game. So interesting. Connor Bedard was very quiet in that win in overtime. So there's your sports update brought to you by Landmark Cinemas. Sign up today for their Landmark Extras programs and get to the theater. Best seats in the business. Okay. more to get to on this Stanley Cup, including our poll question, which let's get to the poll question now as we get set for game one tonight. And I'm just going to pull up the Twitter results here. And Clark, you can check in on the YouTube feed. But the poll question is this. Who's the Conn Smythe Trophy favorite as we sit here today, getting set to open up round 3 of the playoffs? Your options are Jake Ottinger of the Dallas Stars, Alexander Barkov of the Florida Panthers, Igor Shesterkin of the New York Rangers, or Leon Draisaitl of the Edmonton Oilers. Results on YouTube? It's 55% on Twitter, Leon Draisaitl, followed by Igor Shesterkin, second, Jake Ottinger, third, and Alexander Barkov, fourth, which is almost completely opposite of the what the betting odds have right now. I'll get to those in a little bit. Jake Ottinger is the runaway favorite in terms of the betting odds. But again, you got to win the Stanley Cup pretty much to win the Conn Smythe Trophy. I don't think it's happened since J.S. Giguère won the Conn Smythe Trophy on a losing team, unless you can recall somebody more recent. But I thought that was the one. So who's your pick for the Conn Smythe Trophy? Some people said Shesterkin in the comments. I think it's Ottinger right now, the way Dallas has played. They've had to play the last 2 Stanley Cup champions. They've had to play the Colorado Avalanche and beat them. Before that, they had to beat a very loaded up Vegas Golden Knights team in a tough series where they went behind 2-0, had to claw their way back. Jake Ottinger, a big part of that. And to be honest, he's coming off not a great regular season, especially by, standards we set for our, Vezina Trophy candidate goalies, but he's definitely there. Comment coming in asking, Moose, who do you think will win round 3, Oilers or Dallas? I kind of want to wait to make an official prediction. I had Carolina Dallas in the Stanley Cup final. So by that account, I think, I probably have to go with Dallas. I mean, Dallas is a very deep team. You look it up and down the lineup and you're like, that guy's on the third line. Sam Steele centering the fourth line has been very good. The former Regina Pat Anaheim Duck draft pick. That line's been really good, been chipping in. They've contributed on special teams, goaltending, defense. But then I look at the Oilers, and if the Nuge can step up and be a really, consistently contributing top 6 forward, and you compare the Nuge with Draisaitl, with McDavid, and with Zach Hyman as 4 guys contributing offensively on a night-to-night basis, I mean, if the Nuge is going, I'd put that 4 up against any 4. So do you really need, I mean, it gets tougher, and we don't know, the health, how healthy is McDavid? He's taken a bit of a beating, especially in that Vancouver series. How healthy is Draisaitl? What Evan Bouchard has done in these playoffs has been nothing short of miraculous. He's turned into one of, the top defenders in the league. He plays at both ends of the ice, and that shot, Alan May mentioned it yesterday on the program, that shot that Bouchard has, it's right inside the crossbar, and it's a laser. So, Edmonton, sneaky depth that we don't really talk enough about. We always just talk about McDavid, Draisaitl, McDavid. Now we throw in Hyman a little bit, and we think, okay, they're very thin, but the Oilers don't get enough credit. They have more depth than people give them credit for. The Oilers have more depth than people give them credit for. But this might be an X factor, at least in game one. The Dallas Stars haven't played since May the 17th. So when they drop the puck tomorrow, it'll be 6 days since their last game. 6 days. I can't see Dallas being anything but 100% healthy. And even if, rest versus rust comes into play and Dallas stumbles out of the gate, a little rusty because they haven't played in 6 days, they'll be fine. They lost the first 2 games to Vegas. Didn't look very good. And they came right back and were able to win that game. So That's super interesting. We'll have more on the Oilers and the Dallas Stars with Dave Campbell from Edmonton coming up in our next segment. John Ohm writes in. John from Winnipeg. I wish I had the sound effects, the bell, the gong. The experts are saying that Dallas will run all over the Oilers. I don't know about that. I don't expect that. I expect this series again to go 6 or 7 games. I think Dallas will, they grind. I think they're deep. I think they'll give Edmonton a great run. I think they're good defensively. But the Oilers, again, sneaky depth. Very sneaky. Moose, do you want the cup back in Canada or to stay in the U.S.? I want the cup in Canada. Bring it back to Canada. I think I'm cheering for the Oilers, even though I picked Dallas to get to the cup final and I picked Carolina to win the cup. I would have loved to see Toronto, Winnipeg, and one of the Oilers and Canucks all in the Final Four. That would have been the dream. That was the dream. But, my heart wants that. My brain can't make the pick, right? That's the difference. My heart can say I want 3 out of the 4 to be Canadian because all 4 couldn't be. My brain just told me I had to go the way I did. And you know what? Carolina was right there. They were right there. I thought they were going to, I really thought they were going to push that series to 7 and even knock off the Rangers in 7, make one of those great comebacks. So look, I'm not going to tell anybody how to cheer. I want to say I think you're crazy if you don't want the cup back in Canada. But I know Flames fans can't cheer for the Oilers. I know Canucks fans probably aren't cheering for the Oilers. You hate the Oilers now. You hate the Oil fans. I think when you remove yourself from the situation, you can sit back and say, hey, I think that would be great if they won. But nobody wants to hear your rival celebrating all off season and then having more ammo to rub it in your face. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants it. Okay, to the CFL before we get to Dave Campbell and step aside here. This is really interesting. We're going to ask him about, the different camp battles, which are so much fun. One of them is the quarterback situation where McLeod Bethel Thompson has now become the number 1 guy ahead of Trey Ford. They just signed a former Tennessee Titans draft pick, and Cole McDonald played a little bit with the Argos, but drafted by the Tennessee Titans. Potentially to come in as a short yardage quarterback. So that's interesting. But here's, the news that came out Tuesday from the CFL's supplemental draft. Defensive lineman Antonio Alfano, I hope I'm saying that right, was taken by the Edmonton Elks. He was eligible for the CFL supplemental draft because his mother was born in Toronto. So this is from 3downnation.com. Because of the selection, the Elks will now forfeit an 8th-round pick in the 2025 CFL draft. The 6'4", 285-pound defender was the 5th-ranked prospect in the entire United States coming out of Colonia High School back in 2019. Among those ranked behind him, names you'll recognize, NFL stars, Garrett Wilson, George Pickens. They were all there. There was others, Evan Neal, Trevon Walker, Charles Cross, high-profile NFL players. The native of Livingston, New Jersey, originally committed to the University of Alabama, though he never played for the team, as Nick Saban, who was then the program's head coach, accused him of quitting. He transferred to the University of Colorado in the spring of 2020, but was suspended and never dressed for the team. Now, after a stint at an Independence Community College, during which he didn't play, and a year and a half out of football, Alfano made his long-awaited collegiate debut in 2023 at Lackawanna College, a National Junior College Athletic Association program in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Made 14 total tackles, 8 tackles for a loss, 4 sacks, 1 pass knockdown, and 1 forced fumble over just 5 games. So pretty good numbers. Now, there's talk that, I believe it was his dad who claimed that when he left Alabama, it was to go see his sick grandma, but kicked off the team. That's pretty exciting upside, pretty exciting ceiling to get a number 1 high school recruit. Doesn't look good that he was, suspended from Alabama, suspended from Colorado, never played. But he's in Edmonton, and an opportunity to be a really great story in the Canadian Football League as he looks to go back to maybe the NFL and resurrect his career. We'll talk to Dave Campbell about that next. We're good to step aside, right, Clark? Is Dave logged in yet? Awesome. Great. So we'll get to Skinny from Dave Campbell. We'll also talk a little Oilers and Stars on an off day as the RP show continues on a Wednesday here on the Game Plus Television Network. You're streaming on YouTube Live, or you're watching or listening to episode 1 of the podcast on Apple and Spotify.
IKS Game Day wishes to congratulate the City of Estevan and Affinity Place on their brand new center ice display. This state-of-the-art score clock features 5 LED faces with full motion graphics, scoring integration, and our new Halo mounting system. If it's time for an upgrade, let us show you how to deliver the best fan experience. You can find us at IKSGameDay.com.
The race for the Cantera Seeds Cup continues on Flow Hockey TV. The SJHL playoffs are on.
60 minutes and who wants it more?
Follow the race for the Cantera Seeds Cup on Flow Hockey TV. The live sports experience is changing. Teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. IKS Live has the right team. The best seat in the house.
Does this look familiar? Your fans deserve an incredible arena experience. It's time for an upgrade. Stunning graphics. Revenue opportunities are just the beginning with our in-venue display systems and scoring technology. Let us help you find the best solution for your facility. EDG, always delivering the best fan experience.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
Send us your opinions now. We won't victimize you unless you really deserve it. Now, back to your host, Rod Pedersen.
Am I here?
How about that?
I was shuffling my papers, like legitimately organized, because they were like this. And it reminds me of those old Sports Desk commercials. You remember the ones? This is Sports Desk. TSN had those. Rodski and Dutch. And there was the one, it was all the training that Darren Detition and Mike Toth were doing for Sports Center, right? They were into the mirror, right? TSN, Mike Toth, right? And, you know, Goran Ivanisevic, Kafelnikov, they're going through all the names, right? And then as they had said, you know, Dutchie's practicing, you know, shuffling the papers. Anyways, I caught myself in the little preview screen because I can see the program here, and I caught myself shuffling the papers. It reminded me of Darren Detition, and just, fitting that it reminded me of that. Look, we got lots to get to. I'm into the text line, 902-518-3033, and we're going to have to talk about the Jays, but I think we're going to have to push that to next hour because enough of you want to talk about the Jays after the loss last night, but we're talking football and a little hockey with Dave Campbell of 630 Ched in Edmonton. Good morning, Dave. How are you? How's Edmonton?
Hey, doing good, Darren. It's a cloudy day. I think it stopped raining. It's been raining here for the last few days. The sunshine is coming soon. So it's football and hockey weather. Let's just put it that way.
Is it ever? I mean, you guys are pushing towards your first preseason game. The Saskatchewan Roughriders are there on Saturday. How's camp been so far for the Elks?
Yeah, I think it's been a very fast camp, very competitive. You see the leadership just jump off the page with McLeod Bethel-Thompson. I think everyone notices, including the defensive side, and I think that's a very good sign. They're 11 days into camp now, and they're still about 72 hours away from playing their first preseason game against the Riders. And I think they need that because we're at the point in camp where they are darn right sick of each other. So it's been good. I think the coaching staff has been pleased so far, but I think it'll be good to have another team that the Elks are able to play against and to get a true evaluation. Right, you get to see who dials it up in practice but doesn't dial it up in a game, or the opposite. Some players may not practice well, but they're going to show up when the lights are on Saturday here at Commonwealth.
Rod used to talk about that when he was the voice of the Riders, the training camp award, right? The guy everybody's drooling over in training camp does nothing. You never hear from him again in the regular season. But you mentioned Macbeth. I love that, that's going so well. I've been a big fan of his. He's been on this show. But that's always been a point of conversation around the league is Trey Ford, McLeod Bethel-Thompson, Trey Ford, McLeod Bethel-Thompson. So how's the whole situation playing out in camp?
Yeah, I think let's just touch on that is the relationship between McLeod and Trey. And when McLeod was signed back in early January, obviously Trey Ford did not take that very well at the time because going out of the season. And remember, the Elks had their last game was at the third week in October, and then they had the bye week in week 21. So they're all wrapped up for their season. And Chris Jones, in the final media availability, said Trey Ford will go into training camp as our number one. Well, as they often do, things change, especially when you're a team that has only won 8 games under Chris Jones in the last 2 seasons. So when McLeod was signed, Trey didn't take it very well, but McLeod got on the phone right away and started the communication and building the relationship with Trey. And those two talk constantly. And in camp, you can kind of tell. You can really tell that those two have a really good thing going right now. Trey's accepted what is going on, and I think Trey, for what he did last year in those 10 games, and I think some were really good, some were just okay, and some were not good. He needs to take a step back and learn from a veteran who's won before, who has been behind quality quarterbacks, in his own right in Ricky Ray, and then help win a Grey Cup in 22. I think it's a good thing for Trey Ford. McLeod, is this a 1-year thing, a 2-year thing? I don't know. I mean, it's clear as mud right now beyond this season, but it doesn't matter. I mean, it's 24. This team has to start winning games and has to start making a run towards a playoff spot. And I think McLeod has come in and has shown leadership, has shown the preparation needed. He's talking to everybody on this offense. He's talking to the coaches. He's talking to Jerry Jackson, the offensive coordinator, his O-line, his running backs, his receivers, and I think he's really, really impressed.
We're talking to Dave Campbell, 630 Ched, an Edmonton Elks analyst, and question coming in here from the audience. I don't know if you'll have an answer to this, but we'll ask it anyways. BW in Edmonton, watching right now on YouTube, says, Dave, are they looking at opening the Upper Bowl again at some time during the season in Edmonton? Do you know anything about that?
Well, the plan is to close the upper bowl unless they need to open up the upper bowl. So, capacity is going to be around 31,000 with the lower bowl. If they feel that they need to open the upper deck, and they hope to do this, on more than one occasion, obviously. But if ticket sales are starting to push that number past that 32,000 mark, then they're going to open up sections again in the upper bowl. So, but a full opening, no, that's not happening for this season or ever again. That's possible.
And that makes a lot of sense, no doubt, for sure. Okay, we got to talk about Antonio Alfano, and I hope I'm saying that right. But this is the story coming out of the CFL supplemental draft. We look at, and sometimes we want to block out all the negative and look at the positive, because upside, 5-star recruit, one of the top high school prospects, Alabama. Now, it didn't work out in Alabama, it didn't work out in Colorado, it didn't work out a lot of places. But what do we know about this young man coming to the Edmonton Elks, and how excited should we be?
Yeah, so we should explain what the supplemental draft is for just people that don't know. It's for those that were late in declaring for the CFL draft, okay? So this happened a couple of years ago. We had Jamin Pelly, who declared, and the Elks picked him. I believe they surrendered a second-round pick for that. And TJ Ram, which was selected by the Calgary Stampeders. So this year it was Antonio Alfano, and you mentioned it, mom born in Toronto, so that qualifies him for the draft. And how it works in the supplemental draft is it's basically a bid process. So it's whatever draft pick that you're willing to surrender. No other team made a claim, so it was just an 8th-round pick. There was talk that if he was in the draft in 24, he would be a potential first-rounder. So 6'4", 285. The thing with Alfano, he hasn't played very much, and 5-star recruit, that jumps off the page for sure. When Nick Saban says you quit on the team, everyone's going to, have their eyes perk up and, their eyebrows go, huh, and all that stuff. And, I think they know that there was, that bit of controversy with him. And we know his dad said, look, I think he was away for his ailing grandmother. So I don't know. And then he goes to Colorado and he never plays as well. And then it's Lackawanna College, and that's Division II NCAA. But I think for the Elks, they look at a player who's 6'4", 285, and their interior line isn't set in stone as far as their Canadian content is concerned, because I think a Canadian's going to start there. Is it Jamin Pelly? I think they like Jamin. He didn't have the best season last year. Of course, he had a lot of, there's a personal tragedy in his life as well. He got hurt quite a bit. He removed himself from about a couple games or 3 games. Got hurt a number of, too many times. Let's just say that. When he's good, he's good. When he's not, it's especially when he's not healthy, he just, he doesn't help the team. So I think they would like to see him play more, but they don't know if he's, well, for one, is he playing too heavy? Does he need to cut some weight here to be more of an every down player? So they have Sam Acheampong, who's, okay. I don't know if he's overly impactful down to down. So if Alfano can come in as a Canadian with those measurables, the upside's there. You can't ignore that. The character side of the things, there's a bit of a concern there. And all I'll say is this, is you hope that they've done their proper vetting and they're going to bring someone with good character, and that, things just happen, and sometimes they do.
Even if they haven't, I don't know that there's much risk here. And, Chris Jones, if there's ever somebody who likes to take a risk and, try different things to see what fits, bring different guys in. He brought Vince Young into the Saskatchewan Roughriders, right? This kind of falls under that. And it reminds me, and I wanted to pull up his name, of the Detroit Red Wings scout, Håkan Andersson. He was the scout who drafted Pavel Datsyuk and Henrik Zetterberg, the European scout for the Detroit Red Wings. And his philosophy was, I can find a 3rd-line penalty-killing winger. I can find a 4th-line winger in free agency for a certain price tag. They're out there. We can find one. Plug and play. Not going to create an incredible impact on the team, but will fit a role. When I'm drafting in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th rounds of the draft, I'm looking for the most upside I can possibly find. And so you look at skill, 95 times out of 100, it's not going to pan out. But you're looking for the 5 out of 100. You're looking for the Datsuk, the Zetterberg. And, this may not pan out. It's an 8th round pick in the Canadian Football League draft that you're giving up. But if it does pan out, the upside could be incredible to have that type of an athlete, Canadian as well. It could be incredible.
And the Elks were prepared to give up a first rounder for next year, if that's what it came down to. Just no one else bid for Alfano, so they didn't have to. So they're just gonna toss an eighth in there. So you're right. And it's a CFL draft, right? And you tell me the difference between a first round pick or first overall pick and a middle second round pick or a 4th round pick. It's hard to tell, right? And this year the Elks picked Joe DeBlanco, and as Dwayne Ford likes to say out of TSN, you got to find the unicorn in the draft, right? And I think Alfano might have been that unicorn as well, but definitely would have made that first round more intriguing, or even second round. So yeah, I mean, it's value, right? And every team values a certain athlete in a different way. And Chris Jones, he looks at a 6'4", 285 who can be a Canadian. That's a gift. And if it can pan out, Chris Jones will look like a genius. And if it doesn't, well, it's just another player that didn't work out.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Look, we got to get out of here right away. We're up against it. But how's Edmonton on a day off ahead of the Western Conference final? They'll open with Dallas tomorrow.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. And, it's weird because it's been, 21 years since these two teams have met in the postseason. And there's a lot of, Oiler fans that don't really remember that. It's been that long. But, I think the Stars are going to be favored. They should be favored. But I think, the Oilers, the way they played game 6 and 7 with that maturity and patience, I think that's a factor in this series. And they're going to have to be careful with how they play in their own zone and their defensive style. But I think they showed that, if they have to, they can be patient and suppress shots. The goaltending has to be better with Skinner, who came in game 6, 7 and, did his job. He didn't face a lot of shots, but he did his job. That's going to change because the Stars can really push the pace. And when you have the goal scoring and the depth that they have a good goalie. It's going to be interesting. But, some people might say this be a 5-game series. I don't know. I think the Oilers are better than they were 2 years ago against the Avalanche when they got swept in the Western Conference final. Will the Oilers win this series? It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, but I do think they got a puncher's chance here. And they may get Adam Henrique back for game 1 tomorrow. We'll see. Evander Kane didn't skate, but that's more commonplace in the playoffs. He doesn't really skate in practice. They're confident. They're ready to go. And we'll see what happens tomorrow night, game 1.
It will be fun. Enjoy it, and enjoy getting back into the preseason swing of things on the weekend, Dave.
Thanks, Darren. Can't wait. You can only watch your own team practice against each other for so long before it kind of gets a little draggy.
Yeah, gets a little stale. Dave Campbell, 6:30 Ched. You can listen to them on the broadcast, and actually their coverage their call should be what we all listen to, and when we watch CFL Plus for the preseason game. All right, we'll take a break and put a wrap on hour 1 when we come back. RP Show live across the Game Plus TV network, YouTube, and on the podcast on Apple and Spotify.
How about that?
The live sports experience is changing. Teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. IKS Live has the right seat in the House.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
Right now.
Yeah, Rod's not here, so I'm hosting the show.
How about that?
Welcome into the RP Show, Hour 2, here on the air. Another episode of the podcast. Thanks for tuning in. And we want to thank Dave Campbell for joining us last hour from Edmonton Elks training camp and Brickfield, the Commonwealth Stadium, if that's what it's still being called. It should be. Great update on the Edmonton Elks training camp, the quarterback battle, McLeod Bethel-Thompson and Trey Ford, and the relationship there. Their exciting new draft pick in the CFL supplemental draft from Tuesday. That was all in hour 1, so lots of great stuff there. Devin Heroux coming up here in this episode of the podcast and this hour on the show from CBC Sports, 65 days ahead of the Summer Olympic Games coming up in Paris, France. Devin will be there, and he's coming up shortly here in hour number 2. So next segment in about 15, 20 minutes time, we'll get to Devin. It's the show's kind of been all over the place, but we've kind of kept it on the rails a little bit. Text line's open, 902-518-3033. I know you guys want to talk about the Blue Jays, and we will do that, I promise, probably right after Devin. But it is game 1 tonight, the Eastern Conference Final. And I want to get to the poll question to start, which is the betting odds for the Conn Smythe Trophy. Who is the favorite? Who's your favorite for the Conn Smythe Trophy right now, the playoff MVP? And on Twitter, Leon Draisaitl leading the way, 55% of the vote, followed by Igor Shesterkin, then Jake Ottinger, and Alexander Barkov way back and forth with just 7% of the vote. Pretty similar, I think, on YouTube, Clark? Pretty similar. Yeah. 26%, you said? Or 56? 46%. Leon Draisaitl. So there you go. Leon Draisaitl leading the way. I'm pulling up some of these prop bets, game props. Here's the Conn Smythe Trophy odds right now. Jake Ottinger, number 1, at plus 500. Right behind him, Igor Shesterkin of the New York Rangers. Alexander Barkov is 3rd. 4th, Connor McDavid. 5th, Matthew Tkachuk. And 6th is Leon Draisaitl. I put Leon Draisaitl in the poll at 4, ahead of McDavid. I think Draisaitl's had a better playoff. I think he's been more impactful so far. These are betting odds. So when the playoffs are all said and done, who's the best odds of standing at the end? And they picked one from each team. Ottinger first, and they put McDavid ahead of Draisaitl because I think over time the odds would suggest McDavid will end up being the best Edmonton Oiler. I wondered where Evan Bouchard was in the list. So let's go a little further. So Ottinger, Shesterkin, Barkov, McDavid, Tkachuk, Draisaitl. There's your top 6. Miro Heiskanen is 7. Wyatt Johnson is 8, both from Dallas. Sergei Bobrovsky is 9. Carter Verhaeghe is 10, both from Florida. Then Artemi Panarin, that's the 2nd New York Ranger, way down in 11th. And Jason Robertson, another Dallas Star, 12th. Vincent Trocheck is 13th. Mika Zibanejad is 14th. And then there's Evan Bouchard as 15th at plus 3,500. I think you could get tremendous value by putting a little change down on Evan Bouchard right now, if you wanted to. Sam Reinhart is 16th. And then Chris Kreider, there's another one at 17th, highest. Chris Kreider and Evan Bouchard would be my two, not long shot, but best value Conn Smythe buys right now as we look at the odds from DraftKings. That's pretty cool. There is some team futures. Okay. So here's the top 4 teams that are left ranked in order of odds to win the Stanley Cup. Number 4, the New York Rangers.
How about that?
At plus 400. Number 3, we don't have a drum roll, do we? Number 3, the Edmonton Oilers at plus 280.
Hot.
So who do you think, Clark, is number 1? Number 1, New York Rangers 4, Edmonton 3. The Florida Panthers are number 1, and the Dallas Stars are number 2.
Hoorah!
All pretty tight. All pretty tight. Here's the playoff series if they were to happen right now. So right now, the Panthers will play the Rangers. The Florida Panthers are favored in this series over the number 1 team of the National Hockey League coming in. The Dallas Stars narrowly favored ahead of the Edmonton Oilers. Now, we've got Stanley Cup final predictions already, and I think these are super interesting. Who do you think is favored if the Rangers meet the... Actually, I don't want to start at the bottom of the list. Who do you think is favored if Dallas meets the Panthers in the final? Well, based on what we just had, Florida would be favored, right? And Florida is favored. If Florida meets the Oilers, who's the favorite in the series? It's the Florida Panthers. If the Edmonton Oilers meet the New York Rangers in the Stanley Cup final, the Oilers are favored. So the Oilers are favored against the New York Rangers. That's the big favor in that series. So pretty interesting. Looking at some of those props. So you look at game 1 tonight, the Florida Panthers are favored to win that hockey game. I think by 1.5 goals is the number as we look at some of these award winners. And I'm not loving what's coming out of Edmonton right now, especially in the chat. Jen at the Four Seasons says 2 years ago, we were swept by the Avs in the conference final. I only want to win at least one game at a time. Okay, one game at a time, I understand. But you want to win more than one game. You're not going to be happy winning a game or two and say, hey, we did better than last time. No, you want to win. Without a doubt. John Ohm, I don't have the gong, but says goaltending is the key for the Oilers. The Stars have their number 1 stud in net. He's playing like it. Goaltending, I'm not saying it's not important, but the Oilers aren't at as big of a disadvantage as everybody's making it out to be. Okay? So if you're in Edmonton, I wouldn't be as concerned. Yes, some soft goals have been let in by Stuart Skinner. Yes, it is maybe the matchup, forwards, defense, goaltending, special teams, where you're at the biggest disadvantage. But backup goaltenders come in the playoffs and play well. Casey DeSmith played well. Arturs Shilov's played well. We know that. Calvin Pickard played well. Skinner has played well. You're into the conference finals. You don't get there with horrible goaltending. You can have, worse goaltending than everybody else, but these are National Hockey League goaltenders. I think you're going to be okay. Again, I think Oiler fans are a little too worried about their goaltending. I really do. There's a lot of Jays talk coming up in this chat. Randy in Winnipeg says, I'd like to see McDavid win a cup against the New York Rangers, giving the biggest USA TV market a chance to see the best player in the game shine and get the recognition he deserves in the USA. Yeah, I think I want to stop you and say, come on, McDavid's getting recognition in the USA. Like, there's no way. But I understand what you're saying. It's not at the same level. Like, McDavid doesn't walk on water throughout the United States. He doesn't have the celebrity brand in the U.S., even like, especially like a Wayne Gretzky did. I mean, Wayne played in L.A., so that helps, no doubt. But I just don't know. That would be interesting. At Edmonton, New York series, they're all going to be interesting. What do I want to see? I want to see the Oilers and, the Rangers. I think it would be fun to see the Rangers back in the Cup. I like the prospect of seeing Florida in the Cup final. I like teams winning a Cup that have never won a Cup, but the Rangers haven't won one since 1994, the Oilers since the 80s, the Stars since 99. Randy in Winnipeg makes a good point. He says the last 2 Cup winners didn't have much in net. And now I'm trying to go back and think, it was Darcy Kemper for the Colorado Avalanche. I mean, he's not nothing, but was just acquired and, not exactly the guy. Vegas was on, what were they on, their 12th goaltender last year when Aiden Hill got in and played spectacularly. Goaltending has to play well for you to win a Cup. You don't win a Cup with bad goaltending, but you don't necessarily need to win a Cup with a franchise #1 Vezina winning goaltender. You just don't. So really curious about that and to see what happens there. Ryan McDonough trade leftovers. Just a little bit on this before we shift our attention. Ryan McDonough traded from the Nashville Predators to the Tampa Bay Lightning on Tuesday. Barry Trotz telling the media, McDonough came into the office after the season and said, hey, maybe look for a trade for me would be great. Requested a trade. They accommodated. I think it's, 2 years left on his contract that Tampa Bay will absorb now. And McDonough's saying the right things, really excited to get back to Tampa. They like him there. He likes playing there, and why wouldn't you, right? Nashville would be an amazing place to play, playing right on Broadway. But, in Tampa, that's obviously great. Great memories for McDonough there. To play with Steven Stamkos and Nikita Kucherov again and Victor Hedman. I don't know what this does for Svechnikov in Tampa and his future, but good move. And of course, Mitch Marner had to come up in questions with Barry Trotz in that interview, asking about a fit. Could he fit? That contract could come in. They could use somebody like Mitch Marner. A lot of teams could use a Mitch Marner. We want to crap all over Mitch Marner right now for what he did in the playoffs or what he didn't do in the playoffs. And, deservedly so. He's still a really good player, and to make a trade and get rid of Mitch Marner and not get a great return back, I don't think is appetizing for the Leafs. I think they'd rather keep him. He's due a $7.25 million bonus come July 1st. So a trade not likely to happen before that kicks in. No team's going to trade for him, take on the cap hit, and pay the bonus. So the Leafs will have to eat that bonus. Trade won't happen before the draft. But it could happen, on day 1 or 2 of free agency. And that could be interesting. But Barry Trotz basically saying they're going to have to pick up the phone and call. I haven't had any conversations about Mitch Marner, and Brad Treliving has said the same thing. We're worried about hiring a coach. We got Craig Berube hired. We haven't turned our attention to making trades and doing all those different things. So, that's where we're at on Mitch Marner. And to be honest, I'm kind of done talking about Mitch Marner. I'm good with it. If he gets moved, great. If he doesn't, he's still a heck of a hockey player. He's a really good player who's going to put up a ton of points, and he's going to help you get into the playoffs and be a top team in the regular season. And yes, he needs to take the next step and become a playoff performer. But, as I say, I'm done talking about Mitch Marner. I keep talking about Mitch Marner, so we got to move on. Sports Emmys, they were out last night. Some more awards for the NBA on TNT, and they're in the news. The Sports Business Journal reporting that the NBA is finalizing new deals with ESPN, NBC, and Amazon this week. They're also saying NBC will broadcast basketball night in America on Sunday nights after the NFL season, after football night in America. So they're saying next year, likely the last for TNT, which means next year, the last year for inside the NBA, which we love with Shaq, Charles Barkley, Ernie Johnson, right? That's interesting. So we'll see where that falls down. Emmy's coming up. We'll get to that Jays talk, but we're going to talk about the Olympics in our next segment. We're 65 days out from the Summer Olympic Games. Devin Heroux, CBC Sports, is on the way next. He was hanging out at the pools, Pan Am Center in Toronto, as the qualifying was going on. And what I understand is that, when we come out of the Olympic Games, there's always a handful of just tremendous feel-good stories. Athletes who we don't talk about throughout the year become household names. Summer McIntosh, I think, is already a household name in the pool, world record holder. I think we are building this up for her to just have the summer, for her to be the athlete of the summer, and I'm excited about it. I wonder if Devin agrees. We're going to find out about that. There's a little drama around Penny Alexiak, who we all fell in love with at the Summer Games in the pool. Is she going to be going to the games? Yes. Is she going to be competing in the 100-meter freestyle? I don't know. We're going to find that out. She's got a little time to qualify. So we're going to get to that and all the great Olympic storylines as we're 65 days out from Paris. That's on the other side of the break. As we are watching the RP show, Rod making his way up to Canada here for a little bit. I think he's planning on being at the CEBL game in Saskatoon tonight, Rattlers and Sea Bears. So watch for that on our social channels. But RP show continues here on YouTube Live. You're watching on the Game Plus TV network, or you're listening. This is hour 2 of the podcast on Apple and Spotify.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
IKS Game Day wishes to congratulate the city of Estevan and Affinity Place on their brand new center ice display. This state-of-the-art score clock features 5 LED faces with full motion graphics, scoring integration, and our new Halo mounting system. If it's time for an upgrade, let us show you how to deliver the best fan experience. You can find us at IKSGameDay.com.
The live sports experience is changing. Teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. IKS Live has the right team to deliver. We provide service across North America and produce the best fan experience, in the seats or streaming to you. IKS Live continues to bring you the best seat in the house.
Nestled in the scenic Qu'Appelle Valley, just 20 minutes northwest of Regina, is one of the finest golf courses in all of Saskatchewan, the Deer Valley Golf Club. The clubhouse has a full-service restaurant, and customers can enjoy a casual dining experience with spectacular views of the golf course and valley. A fully stocked golf shop staffed by PGA of Canada professionals is equipped to meet all of your golf apparel and equipment needs. Book your tee time, family event, or corporate tournament today at the Deer Valley Golf Club. Call 306-731-1445.
Here's how your business can be a part of Canada's fastest growing sports talk show. All you have to do is contact us, and we will tell you all about the dynamic and exciting marketing opportunities we have, utilizing a fully integrated 360-degree multi-platform. Imagine your business seen and heard across Canada on Game Plus TV and around the world on the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. You will use one of the most overused expressions in sports. You gotta be kidding me. Get your business involved. Contact the Rod Pedersen Show today.
Send us your opinions now. We won't victimize you unless you really deserve it. Now, back to your host, Rod Pedersen.
Hey, welcome back to the RP Show here on a Wednesday. Darren DuPont with you. Rod is on vacation for the week. He'll be back next week. On his way up to Canada. Got some exciting things planned this summer. So, hope safe travels, Rod. If you're watching wherever I looked up that like maybe I'm talking to his airplane. I don't know what I'm doing. But he'll be back next week. Happy to have you along. Lots of great comments coming in here, and I'm curious about this. But Devin Heroux is with us, CBC Sports, 65 days till the Olympic Games. How are you, Dev? Day off yesterday. Couldn't have had a better day for it, hey?
Well, I was going to say vacations. What's a vacation? What's a day off, Darren? Wonderful to see you. Always grateful to be on the show. And yes, 65 days until the Paris Olympics, 98 days until the Paralympics. We are in full-on go mode right now with the CBC.
Yeah, I can't wait. There are little moments that get me really excited. Today's one of them. You know, you coming on, looking at the games, and they're talking about favorite Olympic sports for the Summer Olympics. So put your fan hat on and think about that for a second. The other one happened, I want to say a few weeks ago when CBC unveiled a lot of the Olympics and, you know, you had the photo shoots and the rest, and you did an Instagram Live with Allison Jackson. And I met her when I went out to Trinity Western with the show. Barrett Croft was the men's hockey coach. He brought us out some of his recruiting money. We did a couple of live shows from there, and I met her. She came on the show live, and we hit it off. We're on Instagram following. So I saw her on the Instagram, and I was captivated watching, and it got me really excited for the summer. So, yeah, it's going to be here before we know it. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, Jackson is dancing. What a performer she is. Her whole MO is that she's going to have fun. She's going to cycle, a great cyclist for Canada. She won a huge event last year in France, in Paris, actually. So she's on track to perform. You know, Darren, I've been thinking a lot about this because growing up in Saskatchewan and really falling in love with the Olympics in '98, that was sort of when the Olympic dream came alive for me because of Sandra Schmirler and that team. I always loved the Winter Olympics more. We were Canada. We were good at the winter sports. But for me, I'm actually a bigger fan, I would probably say, of the Summer Games now. And maybe that's because Canada is more competitive than we've ever been on the summer side of things. In fact, I think this Olympic cycle is probably going to be the tipping point in how Canadians see themselves globally in a sporting sense. Because if you look everywhere you look, we're competitive in the pool, on the track, in the field. The men's basketball team, I think, could probably be the story of the games. You hear Jamal Murray committing to the team. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander probably should have been MVP, in my opinion. That team is going to be incredible. I just came off 8 days of Olympic and Paralympic swimming trials coverage. Summer McIntosh, you know, people aren't even ready. This country isn't even ready for what Summer McIntosh is going to do in the pool. 17 years old. She's the Michael Phelps on the women's side of things. She could win 3 or 4 gold medals in the pool. She could win 5 or 6 medals, including relays. So it's just awesome. You said take your put your fan hat on. Darren, I think I'm probably a fan every time I show up at these events because I think our Canadians are extraordinary. It's going to be wild this summer.
It's going to be really wild. And I talked about summer a little bit earlier on in the program. And, you know, I wanted to ask you, like, you just said how high those expectations are. And we always come away with the Olympics with a few great feel-good stories. And some come out of nowhere, some don't. She's not going to come out of nowhere. It's going to be awesome. But she's going to come onto a lot of people's radar that don't follow, in the 4 years in between.
Darren, I love that you said that because I had a conversation as I went to pick up more coffee ahead of this. That's where we're at right now. But we were talking about Summer McIntosh, and I said, I hope we're doing a good enough job to signal to Canadians how good Summer McIntosh is going to be this summer. Our motto sort of at CBC Sports is Canadians shouldn't be learning about our athletes for the first time when they get onto the podium at an Olympics or Paralympics. This is going to be summer's Olympics. I might say that too many times throughout Paris. But
how about that?
Right. I've followed her journey from the beginning when she was 14 years old and went to the games and put the world on notice then. She starts on opening night on Saturday, July 27th in Paris against Katie Ledecky and Ariane Titmus in the 400-meter freestyle, a race of the century, they're already calling it. And, she's likely going to win Canada's first medal at the games. And it's just going to really set the tone for how I think these games are going to go. I have never, in my years of reporting, followed an athlete who has trained the way she does. It is the most intentional, relentless training you've ever seen. And so I just love the fact that there are going to be millions of Canadians who are finally going to get to see what I've been ranting about for the last 3 years on the biggest stage of the world. And when you talk about great expectations, she says the only pressure I feel is the pressure I put on myself. She's unflappable. She's poised. I forget she's 17 years old. She's going to set the pool on fire in Paris this summer.
Unbelievable. Prior to her, it was Penny Alexiak, the young phenom swimmer that, set Canada on fire. Now she's going to go to Paris, but what's the latest on her race to try and qualify for the individual events?
Yeah, it's complicated, right? Because I think, so many Canadians know swimming through Penny Alexiak, as you say, 16 years old in 2016. She won 4 medals there, followed up with 3 more medals. She's Canada's most decorated Olympian, Darren. And what was wild for me is we didn't talk that much about her throughout all of that. And then we had to wait 5 days until her marquee event, the 100-meter freestyle. She comes 0.05 seconds short of the Olympic qualifying standard. She won the race. She's going to be a part of the relay teams and will play a pivotal role in the relays. But she wants those individual events. And so what I'm learning is that it sounds like Penny Alexiak is actually going to try and meet that Olympic qualification standard. She can do that at a sanctioned event, a World Aquatic sanctioned event. She has to swim under that standard before June 24th. I'm hearing rumblings that it actually might take place in Europe towards the end of June. In fact, probably just a couple of days before that cutoff. I love a motivated Penny Alexiak. I think it's a really cool story that this is someone who sort of burst onto the scene, went through a bunch of injuries. She's told me she's gone through hell and back with all of her injuries. And now she's motivated again because I think there's a lot of personal pride on the line. So I'm excited for Penny. I'm going to be at the pool talking to our athletes throughout all of it. And I go from the pool to the track and field right after that. So, I picked some easy sports, light work in Paris, Darren.
Oh, yeah, totally. Leanne's favorite is the rowing, loves the rowing, actually wants to try it one day. I'm more old school. I think more traditionalist. I love the track. The track for me is it. And so my question to you is, Andre DeGrasse and our track team, what's the expectation for Canada on the track?
Love it. I'm such a fan of track as well. I think it's so pure, right? I mean, you line a bunch of people up on a line and you basically run as fast as you can. And that there's nothing to it, right? You don't have to know how to do this or that. You just run. And Andre DeGrasse is pretty good at running. Listen, this is a guy who has competed in the last 2 Olympics. He's won a medal every single time he's competed in every event at the Olympics. 6 for 6. We've taken it for granted as Canadians. He's incredible. I'm a little concerned at this point. We had a show this morning. We talked about it. He posted a 10.19 in the 100-meter at the Diamond League this weekend. He hasn't cracked the 10-second barrier in the 100-meter for 3 years since he won bronze at the Tokyo Olympics that year in 2021. He needs to meet 10 seconds to be able to qualify for the event in Paris. Do I think he'll get there? Yes, because he thrives under the pressure and always seems to peak at the right time. What I'm excited about is a men's 4x100 meter relay team. I was in the Bahamas a couple of weeks ago with Andre and that very veteran, experienced 4x100 meter team. The Americans won. The Canadians came in second. Noah Lyles, unsurprisingly, is a brash, smack-talking American. He was asked, what's your rivalry with the Canadians like? And he said, who? The reporter thought Lyles couldn't hear him. So he said, Canada. And Lyles said, who? And kept saying, who? Major disrespect, Darren. And so you better believe that Aaron Brown and the Canadians, Andre DeGrasse, they heard that. I was in Eugene at the World Championships when that quartet stunned the Americans. They didn't do any interviews after that. So you better believe that I'll be ready to ask Noah Lyles, should the Canadians win in Paris, if he now knows who the Canadians are. So that will be a spectacular showdown. I think Andre and those guys will be ready to go. It's fantastic. It's great drama. We're going to be competitive. There's never been a time in Canada's history we've had 4 world champions all at the same time. That's the case right now on the track and the field. Hammer throw. We're a hammer throwing nation. So it's an incredible time to be a sports fan in this country.
Reminds me of Donovan Bailey and Michael Johnson and the rivalry they had and who was the world's fastest man. It'll be curious. Now the relay, that's where it's at. Look, you mentioned hammer throw. I don't want to scoop you because I want everybody to go watch it. But tell me about Ethan Katzberg because you're really excited about this kid.
Thank you for that. Yeah, and I put a lot into this. I traveled to Portugal. Somebody's got to do these trips to Portugal and Bahamas. Sure. But I was in Portugal, right. I was in Portugal with Ethan Katzberg, 22 years old, the youngest ever and only Canadian hammer throw world champion on the men's side. Listen, Dylan Armstrong is his coach, a shot putter, won bronze in the 2008 Olympics. Armstrong basically was looking for somebody to put everything he learned in his sporting experience into an athlete. And he found it in Ethan Katzberg, this 6'6" giant of a guy that has this long flowing hair. They set up shop in the Algarve in Portugal. And I went down there and I spent 3 days with these hulking men. Hilariously, they rented this tiny little European car, so I was jammed in the car with their hammer throwing equipment and the two of them, and we went to practice and we went on the beach and I saw their life. And so they were toiling away down there, and then they burst out onto the scene in the first competition of the year. Ethan Katzberg just catapults the hammer 84 meters, the furthest throw in the sport in 15 years. This guy's unstoppable. He's a heavy favorite. You can check out the long form profile on cbcsports.ca. It's everywhere today. But this is a guy who I think is going to win Olympic gold. He's from Nanaimo, British Columbia, a long way from home in Portugal, but he's living on the beach. He's throwing a piece of steel further than anybody ever has and rewriting the history books for Canada. It's a beautiful thing. And Cameron Rogers, of course, on the women's side, she's a world champion in hammer throw too. So I'm sure, Darren, Canadians aren't used to watching hammer throw at the Olympics, but it's must-see television for Canada at these games.
I can't wait. Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait. Dev, always a pleasure, man. I hope you're well. Enjoy it. We're all going to be watching. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and of course, I got to give a shout out to everybody back home in Saskatchewan. I was tuning in to the Rough Rider exhibition game as I was headed to sit down with Josh Liendo, the great swimmer. So I was telling them all about the Rough Rider. So never forgetting where I come from and appreciate you.
You'll find a feed in Paris. You'll find a feed, I'm sure. Stay in touch. Dev, all the best.
Thank you. Awesome.
Devin Heroux, CBC Sports, be leading the coverage from Paris and the Summer Olympic Games, 65 days away. Man, doesn't that get you excited? It gets me really excited for the games. We're talking about favorite sports at the Summer Olympic Games, and I just closed the YouTube chat completely by accident. But for Leanne, I said it was rowing. For me, it's the track. Devin talked about how pure that is. It's just me against you, mano-a-mano, running down the track. Who's faster? And that's cool. The swimming, awesome. I love the races. I can just hear Steve Armitage's voice. And here they come, Penny Alexiak, right into the pool. I can hear it. So good. Gives me chills. It's going to be fun. I can't wait. And hearing how great we're going to be at hammer throw. Devin touched on basketball. I read it yesterday. Jamal Murray saying, he's going to compete. He wasn't part of that FIBA World Championship team that won bronze last summer. They're going to be better. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, an MVP candidate, going to lead Canada. They're going to be really good. RJ Barrett is going to go. Kelly Olynyk's going to be there. Canada's going to be good. I think basketball is going to be fun to watch. I'm really curious to see who represents Canada in tennis. Milos Raonic has been dealing with injuries, but he's kind of made his comeback. And to be honest, Milos looks pretty good. He hasn't been able to he hasn't played a lot, and the injuries are still there, I think. I don't think he'll go, but could he go? Felix is is the best Canadian on the men's side. The Canadian side, with Bianca and Layla, Canada's taken a bit of a small step back on the female side in tennis, so I'm curious about tennis. I'm curious about a lot of these sports. It's going to be so much fun. So much fun. Let's take a break. Let's come back, and we're finally going to talk about the Blue Jays. We're going to rip that Band-Aid off. It's not fun right now for Toronto Blue Jays fans. Just every time you string, you just did 2 wins together, and you think, hey, this might be it. The Bats were going 9-3. They beat Chicago on Monday. Holiday Monday, I was there. It was awesome. That's the Jays team that you watch. You're like, this team could win 10, 12 games in a row and get right back into the mix and get this city excited. And then they put up a stinker on Tuesday night against the White Sox. Third game of that set's tonight. Chris Bassett set to take the mound. You can vent on the Jays and what they should do. I'll find the YouTube comments back. I'll load up the text line, 902-518-3033, and then we'll come back and talk about it on the other side of the break. The RP Show here on the Game Plus Television Network, YouTube Live, and on the podcast on Spotify and Apple.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
We're all capable of doing more. More speed, more reps, more commitment to getting every detail perfect. And that's why it's important we never miss a donation appointment. Blood and plasma donors are needed every day in Canada to support thousands of patients that rely on Canada's lifeline. We're asking you to join the Hockey Gives Blood Partners for Life team. Join today by downloading the Give Blood app or book online at blood.ca/HGB.
IKS Game Day wishes to congratulate the city of Estevan and Affinity Place on their brand new center ice display. This state-of-the-art score clock features 5 LED faces with full motion graphics, scoring integration, and our new Halo mounting system. If it's time for an upgrade, Let us show you how to deliver the best fan experience. You can find us at iksgameday.com.
The live sports experience is changing. Teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment. IKS Live has the right team to deliver. We provide service across North America and produce the best best seat in the house.
Text 902-518-3033. 902-518-3033. Pick up your phone and text RP, that's Rod Pedersen. Text 902-518-3033.
Did you know that you can help save a life? And you can start right now.
Stem cells from male donors increase chances of positive outcomes for patients, yet they only make up 40% of our registry.
Today, there are hundreds of people in Canada searching for their life-saving match.
You can be a patient's best hope. Be a hero by registering with Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry now.
I'm Bridget Lacquette. I'm a First Nation Olympic silver medalist, and I'm proud to represent Indigenous hockey players across Canada. Each year, hundreds of Canadians need a stem cell transplant from an unrelated donor to save their life. Anyone can have a hard time finding a stem cell match, but for Indigenous peoples, it can be even more difficult because just over 1% of prospective donors on Canada's stem cell registry are of Indigenous backgrounds. Be a hero. Join me in Hockey Gives Blood in helping to make a life-saving difference to those in need. Register today at blood.ca/beahero.
Hi, my name is Logan Stankoven.
And I'm Connor Bedard.
We're both Hockey Gives Blood player ambassadors and proud to be blood donors.
There are thousands of patients each year in Canada that rely on a generous stranger to save their life.
Please book an appointment today to donate blood at blood.ca/HGB.
Business owners and marketers. Okay, we know you think we're pretty cool. That's why we want you to share in the coolness factor. Partner with the Rod Pedersen Show and market your business every weekday to sports lovers just like yourself. Take advantage of our many cost-effective commercial and promotional opportunities. Tell the world about your business. Yes, the world. Thanks to Game Plus TV and the Rod Pedersen Digital Network. Contact us today and find out how you can be a part of Canada's fastest-growing sports talk show, The Rod Pedersen Show.
You got something to say? You want to add to the show? What are you waiting for? Don't just sit there. Say something. Now, back to the studio with Rod.
5.5 minutes left. We'll work and talk. Clark, I am making you a thumbnail for the Devin Heroux YouTube video, the interview, because that's fantastic stuff. People are going to have to watch that. It's going to be awesome. So we'll get to that. YouTube comments. Wayne in Victoria. Thanks for watching, man. Thanks for the kind comments and for sticking in here. Clark needs a mic, BW says, to be the Wilson to Tim Toolman Taylor. Always meeting at the fence. Knowledge from the other side of the wall.
Hot take.
I'm going to tell you guys, right? I tell you, it's all we need. Got to get you on something. Would be awesome. So great comments coming in. Text lines open for just a few more minutes, 902-518-3033. Let's update the poll results. Ted says, great show today. Thank you, Ted. Game 1 tonight in the Stanley Cup semifinals. The Eastern Conference final goes tonight. The poll question today is, who's the Conn Smythe Trophy favorite? Leon Draisaitl on Twitter running away with it. Over 53% of the vote. Jake Ottinger and Igor Shesterkin are in a dead heat for second. And Alexander Barkov is back and forth at just 7.8% of the vote. YouTube, let me take a look. I got it up here. 47% say Draisaitl. And then Ottinger, followed by Barkov, and Shesterkin is last. So, little different. Jen is cheering for the Rangers tonight. Who are we cheering for in the Eastern Conference final? Is it the Rangers or the Florida Panthers? I think I'm cheering for the Rangers. I like the big market. I like the history. I like the celebrity of MSG. Big Henrik Lundqvist fan. But also I like the idea that Florida's never won a Stanley Cup, and I think that would be really cool. And also for the road trips, because if they make the Cup and Rod goes back to Florida, I'd love to go back to Florida and, be there for the Stanley Cup final. I think that would be pretty awesome. So, cheering for Florida for that reason.
How about
cheering for
that?
Florida. It's selfish, but I'm cheering for the Florida Panthers. What else do we got today? Just to put a wrapper on this, the Edmonton Elks training camp update with Dave Campbell was really good. He'll be on the call, and I believe on 6:30 CHED this weekend. Saturday, the Edmonton Elks meet the Saskatchewan Roughriders, but I believe that will be the call that will be carried on CFL Plus. So some kinks getting worked out on CFL Plus, still some kinks on the stats side, but I thought overall they got that up and working pretty good, and it's a great treat for us Canadian Football League fans. Great story on their supplemental draft pick, defensive lineman Antoni Alfano. Great story. You can read it at 3downnation.com or go back and watch the interview with Dave. That was really great. And, of course, with Devin Heroux, 65 days until the Summer Olympic Games in Paris. Okay, coming up later on this week, we'll go back to the Canadian Football League, more CFL training camp updates. I really want to find out. We talked about it yesterday. And Clark gave me the update because he was at the game. I was at the Jays game Monday, the preseason game. Just how Chris Strevler 2.0 has been through camp in Winnipeg. We'll talk to Darren Bombing of Bombfire Sports tomorrow. We'll have a full preview of Game 1 of the Western Conference Final between the Oilers and the Dallas Stars. That gets going tomorrow night in Dallas. Brian Ray, TV host of the Dallas Stars, will be with us on that one. And the week's shaping up pretty good. Jim Barker, Matt Baker up on a Football Friday. So it should be a fun week as we get set for the show tomorrow and the show on Friday. Jen writes in and says, can't cheer for Chucky. Matthew Kachuk, big puking face. Okay, so you're going to cheer for the Rangers. Wayne says, they're an original 6 team, the New York Rangers, but I think Florida will win. Dave writes in with the Rangers. Randy in Winnipeg says the Rangers. Sounds like a lot of our viewers are going to be rooting for the New York Rangers. It's going to be a fun series. Starts tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific is the opening puck drop. Trevor from Red Deer, awesome show, Moose. See you all tomorrow morning. Yes, we will see you tomorrow for the show again, noon Eastern. What'd you say? Minute? Just under a minute. So last minute of play in the RP show. So that's pretty much going to put a wrapper on everything we got today. Check out the latest at rodpedersen.com. He's going to be at the CEBL game tonight in Saskatoon after the opener last night set an attendance record. I wonder if the SaskTel Center is going to beat that. Over 12,000 were at the Scotiabank Saddledome to see the Edmonton Stingers beat the Calgary Surge in the opener. So it's the Rattlers and the Winnipeg Sea Bears tonight in the second game of the CEBL season. Okay, for everybody at the show, that's going to do it. Thank you once again to Dave Campbell. Thank you again to Devin Heroux. Enjoy the Stanley Cup playoffs tonight. You might find me watching it on TikTok live. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see you tomorrow on the show.
McFly, hello.